Hello, and welcome to Homeowner AF, the Canadian first-time homebuying podcast. I'm Brianna Goslin, Mortgage Agent Level 2, and I work with Canadian first-time homebuyers every single day. If you want to own real estate in Canada but aren't sure how to position yourself to get there, this is the podcast for you. I want to see more young Canadians in the market, building equity and long-term wealth. That starts with getting the right advice at the right time, so you're positioned to act when it matters. Each week, I'll bring you bite-sized episodes that actually move the needle toward homeownership. Short, strategic, and packed with practical tips that you can use right away. I'll cover topics like minimum down payment, closing costs, credit, co-signers, and more. Remember, your finances are like a thumbprint. No two are the same. For advice tailored specifically to you, book your free call at briecallme.com. Now, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Homeowner AF. Today I am chatting about the stress test, what it is, where it came from, and do I think it is necessary for Canadian borrowers? Stick it out till the end to find out what I actually think about the stress test. So let's get into it. All right, so first of all, the stress test is not an extra test that you will be put through before you can buy your first home or any home. And that's often what people come to me thinking. We do the full pre-approval. They say, okay, now when do we do the stress test? No, it's not like that cardiac stress test that your doctor is going to put you through. It's actually just an extra safeguard for your mortgage application and a different way of qualifying you for your mortgage loan. So first of all, where did it come from? Well, in 2018, there was a lot of chatter about folks borrowing at quite low interest rates. And there was a worry that they would over leverage themselves and get into these large home loans, large mortgages that they would be underwater for should anything shift in the housing market or the economy. Fun foreshadowing there, isn't it? Again, OSFI, which is the Canadian regulator, they released Guideline B20. And Guideline B20 affects any federally regulated lender, which is a lender that you're going to be entering into a mortgage with, typically as a first-time home buyer. And what B20 said is that you are going to actually have to qualify at a higher rate of borrowing to be able to get a mortgage loan. And what does that look like in real numbers? Well, you're either going to qualify at contract rate plus 2 or 5.25%. And let me explain what that means. Your contract rate is the interest rate that you're signing on for when you sign your mortgage commitment. So right now, if it's a fixed rate, a contract rate could be somewhere around 4%. So you are either going to be qualified for your mortgage loan at 6%, which is contract rate plus 2, or 5.25%, whichever one is higher. In this case, it would be the 6%. So that would be the stress test that's enacted on your mortgage application when it comes to your debt ratios. We're going to make sure that you can afford a loan with everything else the same on your application if your loan was at 6% instead of 4%. So that's what it is, and that's what was rolled out in 2018. And actually, in 2026, this year, it was confirmed that this is going to continue as a safeguard for Canadian mortgages. So how does it actually reduce your borrowing power? Well, your debt ratios are going to be measured against a 6% interest rate instead of that 4% interest rate. Now, what about if I'm in a variable rate? Well, wherever that variable rate is at the time of signing, that will become your contract rate. So right now, we're looking at, say, 3.8%. Now, what's higher, 5.8% or 5.25%? You're still going to have to incur that stress test at 5.8% to make sure that you can afford that work if anything fluctuates. Now, the good news is that When you come up for renewal, you are not subject to that stress test again unless you are moving the mortgage or refinancing the mortgage. Now, there are some instances where we can move that mortgage without the stress test being present, and those are particular lenders who will do that. And you can, of course, get a hold of me at renewal time and we can discuss what that can look like. And if you are just signing on the dotted line to renew your mortgage and you don't want to make any changes, then you don't have to go through that stress test again. It's only when you are qualifying for a new mortgage. So, what does the Canadian public think about the stress test? Well, of course, there are two sides to the argument. One is that it is keeping qualified buyers out of the Canadian real estate market, and it's making it really difficult for people who are renting at even higher prices or higher rates to actually enter. For example, somebody's paying $2,500 a month in rent and they cannot qualify for an $1,800 a month mortgage payment. Doesn't make sense. And I agree, that doesn't make sense. But the other side is that the buffer protects people who need to be protected. It's going to help ensure that there's a buffer between what you're borrowing and what inflation could do at renewal time. For example, I've had clients this year who are, for the first time in history, renewing into a higher payment than they had when they initially signed their mortgage contract without incurring any new debt. And that's because interest rates have risen considerably since 2021, 2022, when we had those ultra low rates. So, where do I fall? I think that the stress test is a good thing. I think that being conservative with your home loan is always going to serve you well. Could you miss out maybe by leveraging a little bit more, getting a little bit more house? Of course, you could miss out on that, but we want to look long term. We want to make sure that we have some wiggle room as Canadians. There's so much life that happens beyond your mortgage. And yes, I'm a mortgage agent and I'm still saying this. You don't want to be house poor. I think that the stress test is going to help you maintain affordability for the life of your loan. And don't shoot the messenger. That's just what I think. It's different for everybody. Everybody has their own opinion, especially when it comes to Canadian real estate and lending. But if you ask me, conservative is best, and we can always push out your timeline if you're having trouble navigating a mortgage application that's also being stress tested, which is everyone. So if you have questions about the stress test, about how it's going to affect your application, or about anything else mortgage related, go ahead and book a call at www.recallme.com. I look forward to talking to you about your first home loan, or maybe your second or third. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks for listening to Homeowner AF, the Canadian first-time home buying podcast. You'll find links to everything I mentioned in today's episode in the show notes, along with details on how to connect with me. I welcome all of your first-time home buying questions. Send me a voice note to have your question featured on air. And if you're ready to talk through specifics for your first home purchase, you can book a free call at recallme.com. Remember, if home ownership is your goal, you could be closer than you think. You just need the right information to make the right move. I'll be back next week with another tidbit to help you get there.